It gets bad on Friday the 13th, but it gets worse on Saturday the 14th.
While everyone was celebrating Friday the 13th yesterday, as of the time of this video, I'm here today to celebrate Saturday the 14th, because it gets bad on Friday the 13th, but it gets worse on Saturday the 14th. Look, I know this movie is terrible. It looks like it was made for $1, and the jokes aren't even going to hit very many people. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. I love this movie so much, and I always have. I saw it as a child, and I loved it even before I understood what the jokes meant, or for that matter, what satire was. This is one of the best bad films ever made, and I'm here to explain why. I don't know if anyone will like this movie, or even take an interest in my talking about it, but I need to get my love for this all-time campy mess out there. Saturday the 14th was released in 1981. It was written by Jeff Begun and Howard Cohen, who also directed. The title might suggest that it is a parody of the Jason movies, but no. Saturday the 14th is a satire of old vampire and monster stories from the 1930s through the 1950s, making jokes about things such as vampires, swamp monsters, rats, and other creatures of the night that were horror icons of the genre during the Hays Code era. We meet a married couple named Waldemar and Yolanda, who are attempting to buy a decrepit old house because they believe there is a powerful book inside it. Unfortunately, a real estate agent informs them that the owner just passed away and left the home to his nephew. The nephew, named John, moves in with his wife Mary, and they have a teenage daughter Debbie and a 10-year-old son Billy. At first, everyone is unsure of the house, which is dusty, old, gothic, and has strange things happening around it. The house kind of reminds me of the Munsters home. The young boy finds a book named the Book of Evil. Once he opens it up, monsters begin appearing around the house and begin tormenting the family. I know this sounds basic and routine compared to other types of horror films, but you have to remember that this is a satire. Everyone in this movie, except the young boy, are idiots. Possibly the stupidest people you will ever meet in your lives. This is one of those kinds of stories you aren't supposed to take seriously, and just sit back and relax while you watch these moronic characters be oblivious to all of the things that are happening. To me, this is a very B-rated version of Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks. More accurately, does anyone remember the film Spookies from 1985? If you do, then take that movie and just make it all one big practical joke. Spookies was a bad movie that embraced its camp. Saturday the 14th is a bad movie that knows it's bad but is going to have itself a good time whether you enjoy it or not. Early on, the married couple goes to bed, and while they are hearing noises, they are attributed to owls. The wife even opens a window curtain, sees it's a bat, and identifies it as an owl. Later, she goes into the attic while she is cleaning and sees a bunch of bats that she exclaims are owls. It's so goddamn funny how stupid these characters are. I could never hate a movie where its characters are so lovingly stupid. Side note, the married couple is a real married couple. At least they were at the time this movie was made, and I hope they had a blast making this. Once the monsters are on the loose, you see a Gilman come up through a bathtub while the daughter is in it. She freaks out and runs away from it while wearing a towel for an uncomfortable amount of time. Everyone in this movie keeps telling us that the young boy Billy is the smartest person in the family, and Billy has deduced that he can defeat the monsters with the book, but he can't find the book in his room because his mother cleaned it up. The sister faints after the Gilman murders a police officer who is the family's neighbor, by the way, and she wakes up in the bathtub because her brother put her there, and she assumes that she had a terrible nightmare. The reason Billy knows he can defeat the monsters with the book is because the night before he hit one of them that was in his room with him with the book, and it caused the most terrible looking cartoon explosion that maybe has ever been filmed. Now, why can't Billy find the book? Because her mother was bitten by Waldemar and he controlled her to hide it so he could obtain it somehow. Instead of thinking something is wrong with her, the mother thinks she's just pregnant, which I don't know how you can think you're pregnant because you're sleeping in a pile of dirt that you put in your bed, but okay. That's the fun of this movie. It doesn't care. Once the parents realize that they have an infestation of bats, they call an exterminating company called Major Exterminator. And the guy who answers the phone when they call is wearing a military hat to inform us that he's a major. Yes, we're on that level of dumb. He dispatches his best exterminator, who wears a suit and a cape and is named Van Helsing, because of course he is. Van Helsing arrives at the house and informs the family that he's going to shack up there because you don't think I could get rid of all those bats in one day, do you? Naturally, we learn a few minutes later that he is also looking for the Book of Evil. This is when the family is finally wizened up to what's been going on in the house. But the father is still the dumbest person who has ever lived and seems to just act like it's not that big of a deal. There's even a scene where he is given a cup of coffee that has a pair of eyeballs in it. He looks at the eyeballs, knows that they're there, but just ignores them like it's no big deal while he is having a discussion with Van Helsing about what they're going to do for a party they're going to have that night. The punchline of the joke is him handing the cup of coffee to his son, and he says,
"Here, take this coffee. I can't stand the sight of it."
To reiterate, I know this movie is terrible, but this gets me every time. I love it. It's one of those instances where comedy is so subjective. You either laugh or you don't. And I laughed my ass off too many times with this movie when I was both a child and even today when I watched it. I wouldn't mind going on forever about everything else in Saturday the 14th that makes it an all-time classic bad movie for me, but I think you get the point. If you followed my channel at all, I said in one of my videos that I had a friend whose grandfather was a teacher who recorded every movie ever on television, and he saved them all in 2 separate VHS cases and allowed me to watch anything I wanted. That's how I got introduced to this movie. It's a stupid horror comedy that is inspirational for young boys. Billy is the one who figures everything out and is the only one that has half a brain here. It's a boy's fantasy, so maybe this won't speak to many people except that demographic, or the demographic of people who like ridiculous trash. But let me inform you that this was produced by the legendary Roger Corman's widow, Julie, and Roger encouraged this project to be made. So if you like any of Corman's movies, then maybe you should give this film a try. It's a terrible, terrible movie, but it knows that fact and wants you to embrace its awfulness with it. If you're willing to resign that fact for an hour and 15 minutes, it's not a long movie, then I think you'll have a good time. It's also rated PG and has very little violence or adult material, so I honestly think that it's a decent gateway horror film for young people. I saw it when I was 8, so I know it worked for me. Maybe that's another way I can recommend this movie, for parents who are horror fans who want to find a movie to introduce their child to the genre to. I'm grasping at straws here, I know, but damn it, I really love this movie and I would like it to have more attention. It has a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.6 on IMDb, so clearly I'm in the minority here, but I still feel like I have to try. Saturday the 14th is one of my favorite bad movies of all time. I've heard so many people on this platform my whole life talk about films like Troll 2, The Room, and other schlock films, and while all of those films are great, I think this is in that same Hall of Fame. I would love if you gave it a shot, or if you have seen this movie and like it as a guilty pleasure, I promise you, I am right there with you. There is a sequel to this movie, which I will maybe review on the next Saturday the 14th. On a critical level, Saturday the 14th gets 1 star, but on a campy drive-in movie so bad it's good level, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 4. I just love this movie so much. Okay, so please go ahead and tell me in the comments why I'm crazy for loving this movie, but thanks so much for watching. I also review new movies, so when someone asks me why I was kind to movies like Kraven the Hunter, I always respond with, because I've seen Saturday the 14th. I also review silent films and much more, so if you like this, please like and subscribe. Here's links to some of my other videos. Follow me on social media if you like, and until next time, I am Ghost.